Hello everyone, this is Hugo from Ichiban Painting, and today I'm going to be talking about fillers and putties. So what you can use to work on your little details that need a little bit of rework. So there's many types out there. I'm going to talk about the types that I use. First one is liquid green stuff. Was available through Citadel before, and now it's still available in the new paint range. The second one is polyester putty, which is a two-part putty with an hardener. If people ever worked on car, it works a little bit like Bondo, two-part putty from Tamiya. Then after that we have some Tamiya epoxy putty. It's a little bit like green stuff, but it's epoxy based. It's a two-part Play-Doh kind of putty that you need to mix together. And then the last one is the famous green stuff, Candlelight, I think. I forgot, putty, which is really hard. So how can you use these three putty, and what is the best to use it? So I'm going to show you, talk about a little bit why and when I use these ones. And then after that I'll do a part where I show you guys you know, how to work with it and you know whatnot. The first thing is liquid green stuff. I use this stuff only for really like scratches that happen on the model, and then I want to fill the scratch, or really minute detail that needs filling. This stuff works really fast, and it's actually really easy to work. You just open the pot, and then you have your green stuff that's here in the pot. You just take a brush, put it on the brush, apply it on the model, leave it sit, and then after that the only thing you need to do once it's done is to sand it down, and that's it. Really easy to sand down. And after that, when you want to clean your brush, it's really easy to clean your brush, so no problem with that. But it's only gonna work with like minor detail if you have small scratch. This one is not gonna be good to fill up an area, except if you put a lot on the brush and you just dump it in the crack. But it's not a really strong filler, so if you put too much in a crack, it might have a tendency to erode after or crumble, so I wouldn't suggest that for big work. Then after that you have the polyester putty, which is two-part. This one actually is really good for filling bigger cracks and everything, so I use this one almost all the time. The only problem with a polyester putty like this, it's really hard to work with. It's not an easy thing to work with. It doesn't give out smooth finish. It doesn't fill out really easily. It's hard to work with it, but it has a really hard finish. Paint sticks to it really well. It's really easy to fill out some gaps that are considerably big. Like for example, if you take the Land Raider here, I'm doing an interior for Colgar Land Raider, but you see the crack here. If I would want to fill that crack, I wouldn't be doing it with this liquid green stuff. I would be doing it with polyester putty. I wouldn't use green stuff or the epoxy putty. Why? Because when you fill out gaps with these two, especially a gap that is that kind of size, these two are really hard to sand after. Once they are really hard, they're not something that's really easy to sand out to make it finish really smooth and finish like straight. These you're gonna have to sand it like a crazy motherfucker if you're sanding these ones, sanding it down, compared to the putty that's really easy to sand, but it's gonna fill it great, and at the same time it's gonna be hard enough to cover it and have no problem. And actually you can use a combination of those two together. You know, fill it up, sand it down, and then after that there's going to be a couple of little imperfections. Then you can go back with the liquid green stuff and fill those out. You know, working with gaps is not an easy thing. You know, you're going to have to sand it down and redo and rework your putty work for a couple of times. But for any bigger imperfections and bigger gaps that you want to fill out, polyester putty is a champion for it. But it's hard to work with. I'm going to show you in the second part of the video how to mix it down and how can you work with it. Then after that you have the two kind of Play-Doh type of putties or fillers. The epoxy putty, the Tamiya, I don't use that one a lot. When you mix them together, it's really sticky, and it's really hard to manipulate, but it's good for filling bigger gaps. It's a little bit easier to sand down than the green stuff, so this one you should always have some you know, in your kit, because it's easy to work with as far as sanding it down and filling up really big gaps. And the last part, because we're talking about filler, green stuff has other application for filling than just filling up gap. You can do conversion, and you can, you know, sculpt it and everything. But today I'm just gonna cover the topic of like I said, filling gaps and working on the thing. When I use green stuff for my gaps filling, is that I use it only when it's the good time, or I need a structural support. For example, hold on a second. So structural support. This is the Titan I'm working on for the Golden Demon. Shouldn't show it. I wanted to keep it secret, but it's all right, you know, for the purpose. I pinned it down. I pinned it down with 3mm rods that go in the leg like this. And here, same thing, that goes in the leg like this. I had to fill up the gaps here and here because I straight drilled through the leg, right? I needed a little bit of support because the pins are glued inside with crazy glue, and actually I put, and once they were in, I filled it up with crazy glue or super glue. But I wanted to have some kind of you know, harder support on it, so the edge, I wanted to put this in to create an even stronger bond with the rod that's inside, so it's part of the leg and not just glued in, and after that there's a filler that has no structural support. So I will use the green stuff when I'm gonna be doing this, or if you see here, I have a magnet for the torso, so I glued it in, and then after that I wrapped it up in green stuff to give more structural support. So that's when I'm gonna use, or I prefer to use green stuff, is when I have to have a certain structural support in where I am working in. The only problem with that is that, I don't know if you guys can see it very well. Now I primed it. I sand it down and I primed it. Let me see if I can zoom in. You can see here, actually, you can notice it. It's not flush. Okay, so that's a problem that happens with green stuff, is that I sand it like crazy here and still has a little gap. So I'll have to sand it down again and rework it and actually apply some liquid green stuff there to be able to ensure that there's a smooth transition, and it's seamless and you can't see it. So that's a problem that when you're working with the normal green stuff, is that it doesn't give you the chance of having a surface that's really hard, really easy to sand. Of course, you could take a knife and cut it down, but then what's gonna happen is that what happened here, I put too much green stuff. Hold on. I put too much green stuff, and I went in with my a hobby knife and to take out, but then I made another gap, so I'll have to rework on that one. So I would not suggest using green stuff to fill out your gaps. It's not the best and ideal gap filler, but it does give good structural support, and it is actually really, you work with green stuff before. It's a good thing if you're doing conversion, or if you're sticking a leg together and then using green stuff to stick them together. It's gonna be like probably the best option you have. The Tamiya epoxy putty is not that strong, so if you're making that kind of modification, I would definitely recommend green stuff. Little thing about working with green stuff, before I go into the next part of the subject, is that when you're working with green stuff, when you're finished working, I would suggest you put it in the freezer. It's going to keep it fresh, because when green stuff is not fresh anymore, then that's when you can start to have problems with it. So I would definitely suggest to you guys to put green stuff in the freezer. Then the next part of the video, I'll cut the video now, even if it's not 15 minutes. I'll just do a next part. I'll show you guys how I work with all these mediums and how to use them one by one. Just before I go into the next part of the video, I want to just give you a little trick. That when you're working with an area, this is, like I said, the Titan, and this one has extreme amount of work. I had to, do some putty work in the legs here. You see now it's seamless, as you can see here, but there was a huge gap here. I had to rework it. Actually, I did some putty out probably like 5 times and resend it and re-put some putty. A little trick that I can give you is that once you're working with putty, when you're sanding it down and the putty is on top of it, you're gonna see the green stuff and everything you put a little bit like here. And you see the green. Okay. Once you're done and you think your finish is smooth, like because of the the difference in color, it's really hard to tell if it's really smooth even if you touch it, and sometimes you won't see imperfection. So what I do is that once that happens, I take my primer. So I wash it down, make sure that there's no dust on it and everything, wash it down, then I prime it. Then I'm with the primer on top of it, like right now, I'm able to see where are my imperfections, like I showed you on the leg area here, and same thing here. I'm able to see where are my imperfections. So then I can, take my sandpaper and go back in and resand that area, or work with my liquid green stuff and make that area smooth again. By priming your miniature, it's going to give you a really, really good look of what's wrong and where are your imperfections and where you have to work on it. Then don't worry about priming it and sanding it. It's still going to ensure the smooth transition. That's what like professionals do in auto body shops and things like that. They do the same technique. They're gonna work on the surface, prime it, then after that rework it. There's no problem as long as you sand it down with a 320 grit or 400 grit or 600 grit. There's going to be always a smooth transition. Talking about, since I'm in the subject right now, talking about sandpaper. Normally for a miniature, if you want to use a sandpaper that's going to leave a smooth finish that you don't have to worry about it showing it through the scratches through the miniature, I would suggest 320 grit to 400 grit. It's going to be a harder enough surface to smooth out and really work it out and sand it, but at the same time it's not going to leave scratch. So after you prime it, there's not going to be any problems. So I'll leave you guys to it right now, and then I'll go on part 2 where I'm going to show you how to use each medium. So hope you like it, and I'll see you in part 2. Please don't forget to subscribe and also like the video. It helps me a lot, and I'll see you in a couple of minutes.